Okay, now it's time to make the mold. So I have my hat. Everything's looking good. I created these little reference squares. These are going to represent the flanges. So I'm going about 80 millimeters on the sides where I'm going to have the vacuum and the resin feed. And then what do I have? 60 of by the side. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate my object, delete the turbo smooths, like so. Select the border tool, shift and drag up, and then use the extrude modifier and just extrude this out kind of like that. Perfect. Now I'm going to go in here, select this edge, remove that, create a new set of edges, and now I'm just going to drag these up just like this. All right. Delete the hat because it's symmetrical. I only need to work with half. So add a symmetry modifier. So now we'll add a turbo smooth. So there we go. So that's going to be a little carbon fiber area, obviously. And that's going to be more or less our little reference of where to transition and trim. So there we go. So now time to extend these out and make the actual flanges. So let's move this out here like that. There we go. Select these. Them out here, view align. Select these. Out here, view align. Perfect. Here we go. Now what I'll probably end up doing is connecting by 2. And actually, before I do that, I'll just connect here and here. Select these, and now I'm gonna do a relax. The reason why I am doing relax is it just really softens the flow. What I'll probably end up doing is something like this, and then extending it out. And my logic is this is gonna be a flatter area for my gum tape, and then this is just extra flange area. So now I'm gonna do this. Select these, do the same thing, relax. But I'll probably end up doing something like this as well. So that's not as critical. I'll just delete that for now. So relax that. Go. This I actually want to bring up here, kind of flatten it out a bit with the shape of the hat. Let me see if I have to fix this area as well, just a little bit. There we go. All right, so let's do smoothing group 8 just in case. So let's see here. Here's my hat. I put the fibers down. Flow mesh goes in there, all good. What I'll probably end up doing is making a gap with the flow mesh so that way it really fills in the inside here. Let's see, yep, that's gonna not be a problem. Perfect. It's gonna be such a pain in the butt to lay out, but whatever. So that in a nutshell is the mold. Okay. So now I'm going to do molds 0, 2. All right. Yeah, boy, boy, boy. Okay. So I'm going to copy the hat, delete the turbo smooths. Now what I'm going to do is convert to editable poly. I'm going to remove those segments. Probably like simplify this a bit. Kind of like that. And then I'll probably do the same thing over here. And the reason why is this is going to be my inside of the mold. So I'll make this one about 5 millimeters thick, maybe 7. Oh no, because I will be slicing it down the middle for the 3D print. So I do want a little bit more of a thickness. So you know what? I'm going to do 10 millimeters. There we go. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete that. So now I have my offset of the hat. So let's see if I'm slicing it down the middle and like that. What I probably don't need is all this. The reason why I'm saying that is removing this will actually help create a stronger base for the 3D print to print on. Delete those segments. I'm not gonna do this. Whoops. Remove those for the moment. Okay, so that is pretty nice and flat. Now what I'll do is so connect it. 3. Quickly cut those across. So now if we do turbo smooth, it's pretty flat, but as you can see, it's just gonna give us a nicer base to 3D print off of. And then what I'll probably end up doing is turn on edge constraint, move this out, and move this down, and maybe shift it out just a hint. That backside looks good. There we go. Perfect. And what I could actually do even, might be overkill, but see if removing these edges is gonna help. Perfect. Okay, so there we go. Now, let's do this. Here's our little outside flange area. So if we take off turbo smooth on all these assets, let's see what this looks like. So I'm gonna copy that one as well. I'm gonna do Shell Pro again. 10 millimeters on the inside. Go. Now what I'll do is I'll delete these edges so that way I just have this inside. Oh, whoops. So I gotta remove these as well. There we go. Now I have my hat to connect to. So we'll do something like this. Oops. So he just needs a guide. Oh, what the heck? Oh, we have it pretty evenly spaced. Oh, okay. I guess when we were removing the edges, it removed something here and here. That's fine. I hope this is gonna fix it. If I have to redo it, I'll just pause it because the concept's exactly the same. Now what I gotta make sure is we're not getting too close to the hat or penetrating the hat. Okay, and we're not. Perfect. All right, so now that we have that, I don't need this little edge here. I don't need this edge here, nor this one. It's getting a lot simpler. And actually, nope, I do need that one. All right, so we'll do one. We'll work our way with some weird numbers. So 32. What we'll do here is 31. So let's take a look at it with smoothing groups. Okay. Let's isolate all of our things. So we'll turn turbo smooth back on. All right. So everything here now is looking solid. That's good. Awesome. Things are working out very well for the moment. Alrighty. So what I'm going to do is save as mold 3. This is where I'm going to start kind of destroying things, if you will. Alrighty. So Make this one smoothing group 25. This one's good as is. Select these vertices, weld it. So now, if I turn on Turbo Smooth with smoothing groups, that's gonna work out great. Okay, so that crevice is a little sharp in my opinion. So what I'll probably end up doing is, let's see here. This is smoothing group 1. So I'm gonna select these. I'm gonna give it 25 and 1, so that way we blend it. But see, what I don't want is the too gooey of the line. I still want it to hold true kind of to its shape. So I'm just gonna create my own edge. So it's not as sharp, but still sharp. All right, perfect. Perfect. And now we're gonna attach it to this. Now we should be able to bridge right across. So there we go. Now the last thing we gotta do is give these their own smoothing groups. So let's do 27, and then we'll deselect all the sides. So we just have the fronts, 28. So there we go. This is fantastic. And now what we're doing is our last turbo smooth with well, what I want is the edges to still remain as crispy as possible, but everything else to kind of smooth out and round off. And so to do that, I am going to turn on smoothing groups again, but see how now it gets too razor sharp over here where I actually don't want it to. I want the smoothing group to fix that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an edit poly in between those two. I'm going to select everything. Give it a smoothing group of 1. And actually, while I'm doing that, to make it a lot easier to look at, remove those segments. And then we'll do 2. And then what I'll do is turn on by angle to make a quicker selection. 3. So now, as you can see, we still have our super razor sharp edge, but everything else is nice and round. All right. So now the last thing what I want to do is to make sure, okay, throw an edit poly on top of the turbo smooth, because I've seen this happen before for me. It gave me issues. So I'm still doing by angle. And then what I'm going to do is go in and view align it just to get it perfectly straight. Otherwise, when 3D printing it, or trying to slice it within 3D printer, it's going to tell me that there's a slight curvature on there, and it's going to like create weird 3D printed lines trying to compensate for it on the 3D print. So this will allow it to be like a perfectly flat top. So there we go. That is it. That is the mold. That is what I'm going to be 3D printing. The only thing that I'm going to do last is kind of do a quick slice, see how I want to 3D print it, then figure out where I'm going to add legs. One, it adds stability to the 3D print, but I'm not adding the legs to use as legs for like laying it up. I'm actually only adding the legs on the back side here, maybe here, wherever I slice it. So it holds it tighter to the 3D print surface, and it makes it a lot easier to avoid wobble, especially if I'm doing taller parts. But that, in a nutshell, is the cowboy hat mold. So one step closer to going to final.
Figured I'd do one recording here. So this is kind of to share my Bambu settings and also an opinion. So I printed 2 sections already last night, and here's the deal. After doing many molds, I've been trying to fine tune like the perfect depth where it's too much or too little. So that way it's saving filament time and money overall. So right now the depth I added for this mold was 10 millimeters. And in my opinion, it's good, but it's just a little, like, it's almost pushing your luck, if you will, especially with my infill settings, at least with this. So right now, it's 10 millimeters thick. I would say, moving forward, I'm going to try to make mine about 15. I think 15 is going to be the really solid number where it's going to be nice and thick and sturdy. But we'll see how this project turns out with the 10. Now, what I'd like to do is, first, quality. I just go to the default 0.2 standard. That's what I start with for my 3D prints. Then for strength, I increased the bottom layers, because what's happening is we're gonna have a lot of bottom layers on this surface, and I want to have more layers to sand through if I have to. But here's the deal. So sparse infill density, I did 5%. And while it's great, it's still like the part is there, it feels good. If I start squishing it, I could honestly feel where my gaps are within the 3D print. Like if I push too hard, I know I'm gonna crack it. So as you can see, it's there, but it's pushing its luck, if you will. So what I'm gonna do on this one is I'm gonna bump it up from 5 to 7%. I'm still using grid, but just a little more. And honestly, what I'm gonna do for wall loops, go from 2 to 3. So that's gonna be my change for this upcoming print. So it's gonna be this side. And I think that's just gonna give me enough density where it's just gonna feel a little more dense and sturdy when I squish it. Because while I am doing infusion and I'm not doing a vacuum bag per se, like not doing the envelope bag setting or method, I'm still applying a lot of pressure onto the mold, and I would hate to have, especially something this huge. This is gonna be a big mold. I would hate for me cheaping out on, you know, a couple hours of 3D printing time with the risk of it actually like crashing or having a big problem. But overall, so that's the strength setting. Now for speed, again, I go to the 0.2 standard and I change my outer wall, inner wall settings. So I go to 100, 150, infill 125, internal, and this is just me BSing my way through these settings. There's no like logical reason. It's just I want to slow it down. Top surface 150. The overhangs I do slow down a lot just because I want to let the chances of quality increase. And then supports I put 100 because of you know, I don't want to risk these supports breaking while they're 3D printing, and then before you know it, you actually have no support because it broke off during the foundation build, if you will. And then for supports, if I don't need it, I don't need it. But for this one, I did tree and auto, left angle as is. But what I did do is I did build plate only and critical, because when I didn't do critical, it wanted to put supports inside the holes for my pins or whatever, and I don't need it. Like I've done many 3D prints like this and it just prints just fine. And then the last thing is for brim, I always do outer brim because I print in PETG, so that just is one extra layer of helping make sure the part doesn't warp. So that in a nutshell is all my 3D settings. I'm putting a 0.4 nozzle, PETG basic with some heat adjustments that I did on my end. But overall, that's that. So just want to share this, and this is how I split the mold up. So I had to do down the middle, and then I cut up the flange area because I don't care if there's a seam here. I'm more concerned about minimizing the seams on the actual hat, so that way there's less post work. So hopefully this helps answer any questions, because I know sometimes people ask me about my print settings. So that's what I recommend now based on my personal findings. So 3 walls, 7 density, and again, this might change because I'm gonna be not test printing. I'm gonna be printing the other half of the hat right now, and I'll see how it comes out. But I think the wall loops plays a huge role in strength as well. So that's why I'm gonna go from 2 to 3, and maybe in the future I'll go to 4. But let me see. 3 was 10 hours to print. Let's see what 4 does, because 10 hours I'm already not doing anything with this mold today. So maybe I'll do 4. So 12 hours, and we go from 375 grams to, let's see what 3 does. So we go from 375, because again, this is also things to consider as time, and then filament usage. So 375, so 308. So we roughly only use 70 more grams, but extra strength. So you know what? I'm gonna go with 4 walls, just because at this point, 12 hours from now, 10 hours from now, I'm not working on this tonight. It is what it is. So might as well increase my odds of success. So that's that. So 4 walls, 7 sparse infill grid, and then the speed settings that you saw there. So hopefully that kind of helps anyone with questions on my print settings. Oh, and the filament that I use is King Rune or whatever, the cheapest stuff I find on AliExpress. That's what I go for, and it's been working amazingly well for me, no problems ever.
All right, I still have the other half printing, but this one's good to go. So I got some parts to connect. So for the moment, I put the pins in. Now I'm just gonna quickly test fit the other half to make sure everything aligns before I start putting a bunch of super glue down and committing to an assembly. So definitely. All right, so it's fitting. Fantastic. So overall, pretty good alignment. No big gaps. I'm very happy with that. So put this back in the vise. Okay. I may have to remove it from the vise when I go to assemble. So what I am going to do right here, just manually go in and just gently increase the diameter of this hole. Just because when it was 3D printing, some of the filament sag created like a little lip. So all I'm doing is just clearing the hole a little bit. So let's see how that fits now. So as soon as we start going in, there we go. Perfect. All right. So as always, I sanded both sides down. I put the super glue with the activator on. And now, as I mentioned in the past video, so this is the super glue. I'm gonna actually use my super glue gel for this one. And you'll see the difference. See this one? It actually is like thicker. And all I'm doing is just not being cheap at all with it. I want this gel to fill all the crevices to help make sure my mold is airtight. And this is a big mold, so I'm gonna go right through this so easy. So I'm gonna go grab another one. That's there. And I may have over applied a little too much over there, but whatever. All right, and again, just really want to let the glue be everywhere. All right, so that should be good. Whoops, guess I dropped some glue on the bottom. Okay, so now, and I'm not gonna go too crazy with the activator because I don't want it to force me into something I don't want. But at the same time, I do want it to glue faster than it would without one. All right. Oh boy. And there we go. So now all I'm gonna do is just hold it down a bit. Especially in the areas that I know I still have to connect more. Okay. So now I'm just gonna quickly run my finger through here, kind of spread the glue anywhere I can. Go around the back side, do the same thing. Okay, clear this surface. I don't really want this, but I'm gonna sand it anyway. Now I'm just gonna spray some of this activator on the seams. There we go. Just to really get it tight. All right, so that is good. So now I'm just gonna repeat the same process for these two. First I'm gonna connect them like that, and then pop like that, and that's gonna be half the mold. And then the other half. So as you can see, this is gonna be quite an obnoxious mold. It's really big, but my largest project yet, and we shall see how it turns out. So I'm gonna just pause the video. There's no point recording the same thing over and over, and I'll just get to the sanding stage next. Figured I'd record a little work in progress. So here is the mold. This thing is massive. There were some gaps right here, but this is where the peel ply, or sorry, the gum tape's going. So this is all the flange area. So this is okay. I'm gonna body work it, that'll be fine. The actual here area of the hat is pretty darn good. Some minimal gap right there and a little bit over here. But overall, it's really good. Now, the beauty of this is it's a hat. It's not like it's a car part that has to fit onto a car, especially if it's supposed to be like perfectly with the OEM body. So even though there's a few like, you know, little gaps, crevices, it's not gonna screw anything up because it's a hat. So the shape, the size isn't crazy, you know, it's not changing it too much. So overall, this is gonna be awesome. So I'm gonna start sanding this all down. I got my flanges here. This is gonna be awesome. Probably the biggest amount of flange I've ever made so far, but that's gonna make it very easy to lay up the material without stressing about it. So overall, here is the progress so far. Yeah, I'm gonna start sanding away and I'll record an updated clip once it's sanded before I start primering it so you can see the surface. Got this thing all sanded. Got the best I can. This was the overhang area, so I'm not too crazy about going any further with it since it will be high build primer and this will fill in all these voids. But what I am going to do next is use this stuff, the glazing putty first, and then I'll do body filler on top of that. So I'm just going to use some of this stuff right here to fill in the crevices and all these like gaps that I have, because this stuff's a lot easier to kind of move around and apply and sand than the body filler. Then once I have that, then I'll do some body filler as a base. But anyhow, if anyone's interested, this is what I've been using for sanding. So orbit sander, I use my Dremel with this attachment to kind of get inside of here to blend the seam areas. That was very helpful. And then the normal just sanding paper with a bunch of these. And I started adding the links to these things in case anyone is interested in the description. So that's there. This I just buy locally. So I'm sure Amazon has it, but it's just local. I bought it at AutoZone. So I'm gonna start filling those crevices in. I won't record the process, but I'll record it after product to showcase how far I went with it, and then I'll just wait for that to cure and sand that down. Okay, so what I did was put that glazing putty pretty much on every single seam, whether there was a crevice or not. I just didn't want to take any risks, so all I did was just keep applying it and working it into the crevices. So I'm gonna let this dry, then I'll sand this down, and I'll probably apply some body filler to really help level it all off. After that, sand that, and then it's ready for primer. So this thing is actually going pretty well, pretty smooth. And as you can see, even the putty more or less resolved those issues. So this is gonna take very minimal amount of body filler to maybe just help seal like the transitions over here, because I can see an indent still. So the body filler is going to be more or less focused on that area, that area, that area. The flanges, sure, but again, it's a flange, doesn't really matter. But it's very crucial to me that the actual hat doesn't have any seams, so that way it looks the best it can when I pop the part out of the mold. Now I know clear coat helps hide the seams, the body lines, because once you wet sand the clear, the reflections don't show the indent, but I'd rather make it the best I can before I have to rely on clear coat to solve my problems. A little update, got it sanded and just sprayed it with some rubbing alcohol, wiped it down. So now that the body or the putty did its initial stage, which is kind of fill in the crevices and put a base down, I'm going to use the Upol body filler, because this one mixes with the hardener, it's a lot more solid. And now I'm going to really focus on blending any seams. So what I like to do is just kind of rub my fingers through the areas that I know are seams and see if I could feel a kind of like a difference in texture. So as soon as I feel like a little indent, I know it's not smooth, and that's where I need to apply some work. So overall, the center's feeling pretty great. Over here, I feel subtle, very minimal change Here, a little larger one. There's a bigger crevice right here than over there. On the back side, this is where we had the overhangs with a 3D print. So this is gonna need a little bit more love to really fill in all these gashes, if you will. I don't know how you want to call them, but they're holes because of the filament overhang. So the putty did a good job, as you can see, filling in a lot of it, but I'm going to use the body filler to really finesse it and finish it off. And then of course the actual like outside of the hat doesn't feel too bad, but I'm gonna just right here, this area got it the worst, if you will. Now the flange area, I could if I want to, so if I have a little excess, I'll throw it on there, but honestly the flange, it doesn't really matter to me because that's not important. One other thing I'm gonna do is, once this is cured, I'm gonna flip it on the back side. Now I'm gonna actually use this other stuff I got right here, and it's called Bambu glass. So it's essentially body filler with fiberglass mixed. And that's to just reinforce the backside and give this mold a little bit more stability and a little bit more solidness. So this is now sanded, all the body filler. This is the gray stuff you see. So as you can see, the transitions are improved a lot. So like I said, this area was pretty good. This one was the one of a bigger concern. So these transitions feel great. The inside feels nice and smooth. The one thing I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna grab some of the putty stuff and just fill in a little bit of these voids right here, like where the overhang filament issues were. There's almost nothing left to fix, but just this one, maybe I'll just spread a little bit in here because the putty sands way easier than the body filler. So just a few little things left to touch up. Then I'm gonna do the Bambu glass on the back side, and then hopefully today I'll get to primering this, at least step one, and then letting that cure. Then tomorrow a little sand, and then the final base for primer, and hopefully come Wednesday, Thursday, I could do a layup. So a little visual update. I took this Bambu glass right here and kind of put it on the seams where all the joints are, if you will, just to kind of really help reinforce the backside. There were definitely some bigger gaps here on the center of the hat over there. So this is just going to give it a little extra support, so that way I don't have to worry about the mold coming apart during any stage. Might be overkill, but it's all right. Might as well be safe. And then the backside is still curing with the putty, so I'm going to be sanding that. This stuff I typically don't sand. It's just if there's some fibers that are poking, maybe I'll like sand it down a little bit just so they're not hazardous, but otherwise it's just I throw it on there just for that extra support, and I call it a day. So I'll record the next update when I guess it's gonna be pretty much primer steps. And last update, so here it is. Got it all sanded down. The body filler, got some of that putty that I added, sanded down. So this thing is looking as good as it's gonna get on a I guess you could say a black surface where I can't see all the flaws like I will once I start primering it. So that's the next step, is primer. And just to show you the back side, this is the body filler or Bambu glass that I added. Is that, as you see, it's there. It's nothing special, just covering the seams, and yeah. So I'm gonna let this dry, and once it's dried up, I'm gonna get my inflatable tent going and start laying down some primer. I'm very curious how this whole inside thing's gonna go, because I've never primered some hole, if you will. So that's gonna be a learning curve as well. But overall, very happy with how everything feels. The seams are nice and smooth. As smooth as they can be right now, if you will. Again, once I primer it, that's when I'm going to be really finishing off the surface and leveling, because it's a high build primer. But yes, very close to the fun stage, and yeah, I'll record an update as soon as I have one. And a little preview of where we're at right now. So this was after my first session of primering. We still have some seams visible, subtle, but they're there. This I don't care, that's the flange, that's not a concern. And then I can still see some seams in here, over here, not much on the straight, a little bit over here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let this cure overnight. I'm gonna sand it tomorrow, try to level it to the best of my ability, and then primer it again. What I might do is use the putty and try to see if I could fill in some of these seam crevices, but that's the whole point of the high build primer. It's kind of just build a base and sand, build, base, sand, build. So overall, very happy with how the first go around is. This actually filled in very nicely with the gun. I was a little concerned, but besides it just blasting me back with the powder or the fiber, whatever you want to call it, the primer kept backfiring. But yeah, overall it looks great, and I'm very excited to sand and primer it once more. I might have to do 3 sessions of primer just to get it to where I'm very happy with it. Okay, a little update. I got done sanding the first layer of the primer. I just rinsed it off, so that's why it's reflective. But the seams are feeling really, really good. So very happy how the inside feels. Transitioning lines, they're very, very nice and hidden now. So that's a really good sign, even around this inside edge. So that's fantastic. So now what I'm gonna do is let it dry, and then one more session of primer. After that, I'm gonna spray it down with a little guide coat and try to sand it as much as I can so the reflections are nice and smooth, or the best that I can get it. The advantage is it's an organic item, if you will, so if the reflections are a little wonky, it is what it is, but I would much rather have them be really nice and straight out of the mold without me having to worry about fixing it with the clear coat. But yeah, a little update, and I'll just record the next step. Okay, a little update on this. So this is now the 3rd primered session sanded. Getting very close to a place where I'm happy with it. The one thing is when I was adding primer, this bevel right here started to disappear. So I had to sand it down, which made it kind of irregular. So as you can see now, I'm sanding through the primer and hitting the 3D print, the PETG. So I don't want to see any plastic. I want to see nothing but gray top. So I'm going to primer it one more time, mainly focused on this inside area. Especially around here, I want to add more primer to the base over here, so that way I don't risk sanding through it. And the other thing, I'm seeing slight seam right here. It's smooth, that's not the problem. The problem is I'm starting to see a little plastic. So I'm just going to add a little bit more primer on this side just to level it off better without the risk of going through the primer surface. But that's about it. So hopefully this will be the last session of primering, and then I could block sand it and polish it, wax it, and start the infusion process. And here is the reveal. So the mold is sanded, buffed, all the good stuff, ready to be waxed and laid up and infused. So overall, very happy with how it came out. The reflections are really nice. Considering it's such an annoying thing to work on a negative, not a positive, but it's got to be my best mold. Yeah, I took a little more time trying to sand the surface a little more flat. So as you can see up here, it gets a little weird, and realistically I don't know at what point with anything the reflections are acceptable to get weird. When I go like this, you can kind of see it's not awful. Same thing with back here. But yeah, but overall the flaps, as you can see, the reflections do flow nicely, so I'm happy about that. And then yeah, so the inside I did the best I can, but that's not a fun area to sand at all, let alone buff. So it is what it is. I still plan on clear coating like I always do, so this is just to, you know, improve it a little bit, but it's definitely not something I stress over too much. So yeah, that wraps up my mold making video, and The next video that I'll post after this one is going to be the carbon fiber layup and infusion, and hopefully it doesn't fail, because if it does, this was a big waste of time.